Okay, I have 8 o'clock. We'll call the Tuesday, November 24th, 2020 Power Board meeting to order. I will make the motion to abide by our Governor's executive order. In order to comply with the technical aspects of the Governor's executive order regarding holding open meetings in a form other than in the open and in public, this governing body determines that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Do I hear a second to that motion?
Second.
Have a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I guess we don't have to do the roll call vote since Kanal is...
I think he just joined. Kanal, is that you? Somebody on the phone?
Yes. Hello?
Kanal?
Yes.
Okay.
Kanal, I don't know whether you heard or not, I just made the motion in a second for the, to conduct our meeting according to the COVID executive order from the governor, so we're opening for voting on that motion. I'll call on Mr. Burkhart,
Yes.
Ms. Castleman,
Yes.
Ms. Knight,
Yes.
and Mr. Shaw.
Aye. Yes.
Okay, motion passes, and we have power and motion
Yes, thank you.
awards today.
Okay, so we did a press release. I think y'all saw the press release that we did. We were recently recognized by American Public Power Association, which are nationwide voice and advocate in Washington for us. We do a lot of training with them. They actually, our safety program is through APPA as well. And APPA represents over 2,000 public power providers across the United States. So when we entered into the broadband business, we really got involved in not just educating customers, but actually marketing to customers, and the customer experience became more and more important to us. And so we had 3 of our folks out of business development that were recognized in work that they've done in video work, in social media, and in print. And so they were recognized. Unfortunately, they had to do a virtual recognition. They were not able to attend on that. But I really, we have other utilities across the valley that are actually reaching out to these folks, saying, what are we doing on social media? What are we doing on our video work? So we have been leaders in that in our field, and it's a big tribute to these 3 young ladies. So I'll recognize them one at a time here. Elena Nixon, which Elena got me with her changing her name recently, for her contributions to CDE Lightband's 3 national awards during the American Public Power Association's Customer Connections Conference. Recognizing excellent work for the Award of Merit in Print and Digital, the Award of Excellence in Video, and the Award of Merit in Web and Social Media. So, let me get my mask. So, Elena, congratulations.
Appreciate that.
And I also would like to recognize Lindsay Pease.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And also April Stillwell. April. Thank you. We also, we've got a pretty extensive IT network here. And as we've added on to the building, we've kind of tested our IT folks along the way with a lot running a lot of fiber now through the building as well as just Ethernet cable. And I have become IT's worst nightmare for forgetting my password. And through all this video conferencing, I can't get my video camera to work or my speakers to work. I know it's not user error, but
It's a short between your chair and the keyboard.
that's what I did. But Keith Mikalenko has been a key to our IT organization. I want to recognize him today for achieving his CompTIA Network Plus certification, his knowledge and skill set for networking concepts, infrastructures, network operations, security and troubleshooting qualifies him as an extremely valuable asset to the Information Technology Department and CDE Lightband as a whole. So Keith, thank you for your work.
All right,
Keith, thanks so much. I appreciate it. And now, before they leave, another testament to the work that these folks do. We have, the last several years now, we always have to produce our annual report, and it just came out, hot off the presses yesterday. And so years ago, the annual report was outsourced, and we sent it off to be designed and printed in that, but we have been doing this work internally now, so I really want to thank Business Development for their work on that. So we want to share our annual report with y'all. I always said, I accused David that we put pictures in there to trick people into reading the numbers.
Not me, I read the numbers.
Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Enjoy.
It is really great that almost every meeting, we have a group of folks in here that we have achieved something and being recognized. So it's great to have the employees, as talented employees as we have here. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is approving October minutes, and then we also need to approve the meeting minutes from the special call meeting on November 17th. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at those. I think we can have one motion to approve both sets, if that's satisfactory with everybody. So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Burkhart.
Aye.
Ms. Castleman.
Aye.
Ms. Knight.
Aye.
And Mr. Shaw.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Guess we're ready for our monthly reports.
Yes, I'll go ahead and turn the program over to David to go over the financials. David?
Thank you, Ronald. There we go. Unfortunately, no pretty pictures in the monthly reports. We can work on that if you'd like us to. I will start with the balance sheet for the electric division for the month of October. 4 months into the new fiscal year, we can't really call it new anymore. We're already in the second quarter. So you can see we've got on the first line quite a bit of plant activity still. It was 1 year ago this month that we passed the 300 million mark in plant value, which is huge. It shows that Clarksville's growing. It took us, I think, 5 years to get from 200 million to 300 million. It took us, I think, 30 years to get from 100 million to 200 million. So, one, things get more expensive, but two, Clarksville is just a fast-growing community, and our electric plant has to keep up with it. Plus, you know, we got that fiber network in there as well. That's more than $100 million right there that Clarksville citizens get to use. And we use it to provide broadband services. So that's the highlight for the plant. Let's see, this thing never wants to listen to me. There we go. If you look at line 8, the interdivisional loan is at 2.9 million still. It will probably sit there for a few more months until there's another payment. And then, you know, if we can wring it out of Christie, she doesn't like to let us pay it. And she looked at the loan agreement that says, you know, the second one, which is what we're on now, is not due till 2030 something. So, but I think Brian and I are gonna win that one. Get that
Is there a
cash
prepayment penalty?
There's no prepayment penalty.
2038 is when.
2038, that's correct.
I fully plan to be in a retirement home for this payment.
No comment there.
So.
All right, there's our cash and cash equivalents. I should point out, I don't speak often about it, but you may question why line 15, you know, just seems to go all over the place. Well, that's electric accounts receivable from our customers. And that number's gonna fluctuate based on how much revenue and how much usage there was for the month. So it's pretty small this month compared to last month and the last 3 months actually. That's because usage just went way down in October here. We'll see in a minute that it's our lowest October in at least the last 5 years as far as usage and revenue goes. So that's reflected in what our customers owe us at the end of the month. They used less, their bills are smaller, the accounts receivable is smaller. Are there any questions on anything else on the asset side of the balance sheet? I will move on then to the liability and equity section, line 34, if you'll direct your attention to. Year to date, we've earned $6.68 million. Last year, we had earned $6.67 million, 6.68 if you round up. So we're awful consistent, at least through 4 months, as far as year-to-date net income. I'll go ahead and say I've not seen a November yet that produced net income for CDE, so I would look to see a loss next month. I just don't know how large it'll be, but it's transitional. The weather changes. I believe it was 70 degrees this past weekend in the middle of November, so we would look to, I would expect a lower usage month, even for November next month. Are there any questions on anything else on the liabilities and equities for electric? All right, next is the income statement for the month of October. Line 64 will show you that we earned just under $12 million in revenue compared to just under $14 million for the same month, 1 year ago. And that's also lower than the last 3 months. That's driven by usage being down about 15% from the prior month. We still had net income of $1 million, which looks good. Last year was $2 million though. So that's why last year's net income year to date caught up to us this month. Any questions on the income statement? Quickly is the cash flow statement, so you can see what drove the overall small decrease in cash for the month of $341,000. There's our electric plant trending, you can see. The blue bar is the total plant value, the red bar is the total depreciation accumulated on that plant. Day sales and receivables, I mentioned that receivables fluctuate depending on how much revenue was generated. This calculation takes into account that. So it's a function of revenue and receivables and the number of days in the month. So we're still hovering around 25. That big spike you see right there, or that somewhat large spike you see right there, that was COVID related, and it's bounced back down since then and has stayed at around 25. If you look at operations trending, you can see it's just a little too big. There we go. October, that's a very low October for us, that blue bar, as far as revenue, compared to every other October on there. And then you can see every October is followed by a November that decreases even more. So trend-wise, we would expect that to happen again this year. Every dollar we spent this month, 68 cents went to TVA.
That's down, isn't it? Isn't that down?
That's
Yeah,
down.
that's lower than it's
Yeah.
That is
ever
down.
been, that I remember.
Yes, sir. And it's trending that way when usage goes down because that's what fluctuates. That's a variable cost, the power used. But payroll, vendor expenses and whatnot, those are not variable, those are fixed. And so there'll be a larger percentage whenever the electric bill goes down. I'm hoping for a very cold January and February like we sometimes have. You'll see it be as high as 75, 78% that month.
Used to study about 82%, but it fluctuates more now. Fuel costs.
And these are the numbers that drove the change in the month for the revenue. There you can see that kilowatt hour usage way down, which drove the revenue to be pretty much down as well, even though the number of bills sent was higher. That's weather related, somewhat energy efficiency related, but mostly weather related for this month. Quickly, our cash and investment summary. You can see what items and which banks hold our monies. Real quickly, I won't harp on it much more after this meeting, but the prepayments to TVA, we're purposefully not putting as much in there as we used to. That 14.6 million used to be higher by about 8 million. They used to pay us more than 2% on the interest rate for the credit. And now, that's not a typo, that's not 8%, that's 0.08%, 0.08%. So there's no benefit for us to tie our money up and prepay the bill in a large amount like we used to, so we do not. So that's why that's gone down. Year-to-date credit on the bill, $3,274. There's our day sales and receivables hovering around 25. We have almost met the net revenue requirement for the year through October, but I'm pretty sure that's going to go a step back next month, and then we'll pass it for good in the winter time by January. This is the TVA report. It's all the financial data we've just gone over, as well as some additional usage data. Were there any questions on the TVA report? Rumor is this will eventually change with some new software. It's been slowed down, TVA says, by COVID. But their software is about 20 years old, which in people years is just ancient, if you were to convert it. I'm surprised it still works. I'll move on then to the broadband division. You can see broadband now has 4.8 million in cash compared to 4.7 1 year ago. You got to say we're consistent on both divisions this year so far for this month. Their portion of the long-term debt is over there in, long-term debt to the electric division near the bottom. There's that 2.9 million. We're planning a party. We just need COVID to cooperate, because that's, I mean, of all the parties we had out here, that's the one where I'm just going to let loose.
There's a visual.
There's some visuals later. Unfortunately.
Report.
Oh,
His picture. Did you not look at your report?
So broadband had another reliable month, and it just shows in the balance sheet. Moving on to the income statement. Net income for the month is $467,000, which is the highest month they've had of the last 4 and higher than 1 year ago. Cash increased for the month by almost $300,000. And there's that $4.8 million in cash for them. And finally, for broadband, the variance report to TVA, Christy shares these numbers as well, and hers does have graphics and pretty pictures, so I don't harp on mine. But internet had a very good month of 144 net gain, and we gained in voice this month as well, which is unusual for voice. Are there any questions on my report?
Mr. Chairman, got to say it, broadband is doing extremely
Still,
well.
still spinning like a top.
Yeah. Electric too, Brian. Bruce.
It's kind of bad, bro. Thank you, Mike.
Don't want your self-esteem to take a hit.
Is that all you have, Dave?
Yes, sir. Thank you all.
Yeah.
I don't know whether anybody else has any questions about David's report. I've got a few, but I'm scared to Scared to ask.
You can email me.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that party. I'll entertain a motion. If there's no other questions for David, I'll entertain a motion to approve the financials as presented.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion for anyone? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Burkhart.
Aye.
Ms. Castleman.
Aye.
Ms. Knight.
Aye.
And Mr. Shaw.
Aye.
Motion carries. Contracts and professional services.
Thank you, Chairman. But before I talk about the contracts, I think the comment made about how well broadband is doing, it's a team effort out here. We've got electric and broadband, and I think just to point out for Bruce's sake over here that all the broadband services run off of the electric fiber. And so a lot of the infrastructure and things that we put in, technologies put on the electric side, has afforded us to be able to do the things that we're doing in broadband. And I'm just saying that as we start looking at rent on and that. So, okay, just get that out there.
Yeah, the more compliments y'all throw around, the higher it goes. I just
Say that one more time, Brian. 100 million in fiber network.
But anyway, it is a team effort to get these services out to the public, and it's been unique on as I said, for so many years we were just producing electricity and selling electricity, the only game in town, and then now we have to focus on our customer, and we actually have to work for that business.
Well, and not to exclude anybody down this line, but, Jim's team over in customer service, if they weren't skilled customer service reps and pulling in an average of an 85% selling rate for new electric customers for broadband, we wouldn't be where we are right now.
Somebody's got to sell it.
It all ties together. So, okay, with the contracts, first contract we have is with Daphron and Associate. It's an annual software renewal and tech support, $141,434.40. Of course, Daphron is the mainstay of our software. It's our billing, work order, inventory, payroll, and all the back office software that we have. And we've been with Daphron, had a relationship with them since I think 1986. And recently, they're known for their billing software. We also use another software company called MillSoft, which is known for engineering. And this past year, they have merged. And so they're still working through all the details and kinks out of the merger, but now we've got a strong engineering firm and a strong billing and customer service firm that are working together. Hoping that those will be good things. But Jim could answer any questions that you might have on the software renewal, if you have any questions.
Any questions for Jim? If hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Daphron contract.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Burkhart.
Aye.
Ms. Castleman.
Aye.
Ms. Knight.
Aye.
And Mr. Shaw.
Aye.
Move on to the next star.
Okay, so it's that time of year where we are working on our renewals for our video services. And the latest one that we're working on with WKRN and WGN and several other networks within that. I think I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Several of our TENFOC members use a consulting firm to do their contract negotiations. And we have, Christy has always done our contract negotiations internally. And while we don't know exact pricing, but we do know that she outperforms the consultant on most every occasion. So that's why we've chosen to keep it in-house. So video costs continue to rise, but I think we've negotiated the best contract that we can at this point. And if you have any questions on the details of the contract or pricing, Christy would be glad to answer those.
Any questions for Christie? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the Next Star contract.
Motion for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Burkhart,
Aye.
Ms. Castleman,
Aye.
Ms. Knight,
Aye.
and Mr. Shaw.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next contract is dealing with a sole source provider for, it's kind of combining our outage management system and our AVL system. Data Voice is our outage reporting system. So Bruce, you want to kind of highlight what that?
Sure.
we're doing here?
We have a new ABL provider now, automated vehicle location. So basically what this will do is we'll be able to locate our vehicles on our outage management system where we don't have to look at 2 or 3 different screens. So
This is critical. We've been wanting this for some time and working through this and trying to find the right vendor. But as we have, especially during outage situations, we have multiple crews on our system. Although we do radio checks to check where they are, this way we visually know where our crews are. So when we start heating up a line, we know that everybody's all clear. It won't take away from our radio notifications, but it'll give us a visual of where our crews are for managing crews. So we're anxious to get this all working and tied together. So it's a bit, like I said, if there are any questions, Bruce can follow up on those.
Any questions for Bruce regarding the Data Voice system? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from anyone? Hearing none, Mr. Burkhart,
Aye.
Ms. Castleman,
Aye.
Ms. Knight,
Aye.
and Mr. Shaw.
Aye.
Motion carries. Purchase requests.
Yes, we have 2 purchase requests this month. The first one is Verimatrix. It is an annual software and tech support renewal for $40,493, and that is our video encryption software, and so that people cannot steal our video signal over the airwaves. So that's that. And then pole. We've got a large order of poles. It's just restocking of $1.1 million, which they won't all come in at one time, but we're getting that to restock and low inventory. So any questions on any of the purchases? Kind of a light month this month on purchases.
They need no board action, right?
They do not.
How many poles we buying for $1 million?
No, Bruce will, I can't read that small print.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't, about 400? Maybe this is an annual contract, so.
They're not, the steel ones are not getting any cheaper at all, and nor the wood either anymore. You know about, it's lumber and wood, it's just, it's all the storms that have been going on throughout the country, and then the steel pricing, it's not getting any cheaper at all.
Are we having trouble still getting transformers and switches?
We've
getting better.
It's starting to get a little bit better on some, its product line. Some products are coming a little bit quicker. We've got a lot of orders that are starting to come in. We're just having to order out in advance. It's not getting a lot better yet. But we're getting because of the orders that's starting to come in now. But don't anticipate it to get any better anytime real soon. Right now, what they're hearing. Metering's what we're really concerned about right now. Some gatekeepers for our metering, and it's March before they'll come in. If you order them today, we ordered them last couple weeks ago, and I think it's March before they'll arrive. So it's anything that comes from China, anything technology related or steel related is getting still pretty far out. We're not low on anything right now, but we're trying to stock up.
You want to continue with the?
Okay, so operating policy 2-1 is our fuel cost adjustment. Fuel costs will go up on an average bill by $1.62 compared to last month, but that's still 20% lower than the 3-year average for December. If you look at December of 2019, it was at 135.81 versus this December it's 132.34. So luckily, fuel cost is still down, so that'll help our customers out. The biggest change is October was transitional rates, and November was transitional rates, and December will be winter rates. That's the biggest change. October, November was transitional, and that's more so the reason for the increase than for fuel cost. The next will be the manager's report, and I'm gonna. Pruitt's got us. We'll call that up, and we'll do her COVID update first, and then I'll give an update on where we are. But this, so y'all know, this is a report that every time we have an update with to COVID or employee related, these slides and this information goes out to all of our employees. So we are constantly keeping our employees up to date on where we are and the status of things. So, Pruitt?
Yeah, and these are the same charts y'all see month after month. I went back and looked. In October, I showed y'all that our positive numbers were at 9. Last month, our positive number was at 17, and this month they're at 20. So we didn't have quite as big of a jump as we did last month coming to you. But we have had quite a lot of folks going out and getting tested, as is expected, as the city has certainly seen that in our surrounding area. The biggest increase to look at is down here in the bottom corner in this the child care area, and that also would be expected with the schools closing on certain days, today being one of them. My husband has texted me probably 17 times while we've been sitting here dealing with remote questions and things. But so we've got a lot of parents that are trying to figure out what to do with that. And we've had a few schools closing last minute for staffing issues and things. And so some parents are working through that problem. A lot of I included the not tested numbers there because those are folks we're just tracking because they're having to stay home with their children, or maybe they were quarantined because a doctor required them because they're waiting for testing. We've been dealing, the most recent thing, some folks are going to get tested, and then various clinics are then requiring to be sent off for a second confirmation test, and they're being required to quarantine during that period for that second test confirmation time.
That's
so
new
this week, yeah. So even though we have a negative confirmation, they're still being required to quarantine for up to 5 or so days to get that second confirmation. So, and it's several different clinics across town. So, you know, we can try to set our standard, and then the next day it'll all be blown out the roof, and we're just trying to work through it all and figure it out. So we came to y'all a couple of months ago with an idea of trying to figure out how to work through the crisis, I suppose, of what would happen if schools should close. And do you want to open it or keep going?
No, I think you go ahead.
Okay. So we put an RFP out to local facilities to provide the idea of an on-site remote learning center on-site here for our employees if that should happen, if the entire district should close, not just 1 or 2 schools, but the entire district. We put that out to all facilities and sent it out to all schools and daycares and everywhere. We got back, heard back from just one, actually, but we were really pleased with the one that we heard back from. Their Little Learners University off of Peters Mill. And I got to tell you, really, really impressed with the owners that we've been working with there. So we're in some stages there up at Louis Learning Center that we've been calling it. Of course, we're working in partnership there with them. So a couple of stages that we're still in. We're certainly not, I won't say it's happening, I won't say it's done, but we're working through. We have some rooms downstairs that were in our expansion area that we had set up, and we didn't want the rooms to be the whole back, so we've just kind of cleaned them out, got them cleaned up, put some old leftover furniture that we had from the move out, put that in there so that we knew that wouldn't be our holdup. And so we've got that set up downstairs, sure, just if that should happen. Little Learners has received from DHS an educational extension, which will allow them to operate on site here without having to be licensed, which was a big hurdle for them and for us. If we had to have licensing, it was a no-go. It wouldn't have happened. So that was a big push to get through DHS. Little Learners is now working with their carrier, their insurance carrier, to get our name added onto their insurance riders for their insurance carrier. And then we will be adding a molestation and abuse rider as well to our insurance to make sure we're fully covered with all of that. And then step after that is we are currently writing and cleaning up a lease and contractual agreement between the two of us that, of course, once we get to that final stage, we'll bring back to you for final approval to make sure that we are doing what you all want us to be doing. And then once all that is said and done, we'd like to hold informational meetings with our employees that are interested in doing this so that we can have, those FAQs and enrollment questions and really get down so they can meet these owners and understand what's going to happen and what will be provided to them. Our goal at the end of the day is to keep our employees in their jobs. I've had people say to me, look, if school's closed, I'm going to have to make a hard choice, and that's scary to hear. And our goal is to help them feel safe, that they know that their children are in a safe place and able to stay as healthy as possible and safe. We have talked to the YMCA as well and trying to see what options they provide. But right now, locations, just number of locations, and so just worried about how many spots would be available. So we're just trying to look at all different areas. And so if this would work, if this is an option for us, we're just going to try to keep going down this road and see. But it's a big if. We know it's still a big if. So there's a lot to get there, but we'll just keep going until we get to a hurdle we can't cross.
Any questions on the Learning Center from y'all? So what we'll do is, working through that lease agreement is the big, I think we got to get on their rider. That's one big hurdle. If we get on their rider, we'll be able to work out the insurance situation on our end. The next piece is the lease agreement. And we'll bring that, before we can do any of this, we'll have to come back to the board. And so we're hoping we can do it at a normally scheduled board meeting, but depending on what happens to the school system, we may have to call a special call to get that lease agreement approved. But I think it's coming together. I hope we don't have to use it, quite honestly, but we do in case the whole school system shuts down. We want to try to be prepared for that. A quick update on the Community Care Fund. I think we talked about this before. This is our second wave, and we're working with the Imagination Library and Salvation Army. So Imagination Library is making some efforts. It's just where they're doing all their campaign, and whatever money they raise, then we'll match it dollar for dollar up to $15,000. We as in TVA. And then on the Salvation Army, working with the Housing Community Development, they're got us connected with the Salvation Army, and they will be selecting how we do things. But that's once somebody leaves and gets able to get a home, then it's all the cost of getting electric service connected and that. So $10,000 in matching funds will be working towards helping customers do that, help them get on their feet. We showed this slide last month, but again, These are all the agencies that are out there helping customers pay bills. And we've had partnerships with many of them for many, many years. But this in October, there was $183,000 made available to customers that had trouble paying their bills. And you can see now that the United Way is involved in that through the Community Care Fund. So we do not select who gets help. We let those agencies select. And there's more and more, there's several churches you'll see on here that have programs as well. And we'll work with any of the agencies to help them out. The Community Action got a huge amount of money from the federal government last month, which shows that $758,000 contribution that they made. I don't know if they'll get any more funds coming in, but that was a big shot in the arm. So there's a lot of work being done for our residential customers. But commercial customers, small commercial, TVA has some programs for our large industrial load, but the small commercial customers are still getting hit pretty hard, and the bankruptcies are up, and you can see so far we've had, we had 9 here in 2020. I think not a lot of dollars right off, but there's a lot of customers affected, a lot of businesses affected that maybe you wouldn't even think of being affected by this. So bankruptcies are up for us, as well as we have some deposit programs in place and deposit insurance programs in place, and some of them are getting kicked off of those insurance programs, and we're trying to work with some of those customers during that. I think as we've talked about solar and us getting into a solar project, one thing to remind, as a reminder, all power that you buy from TVA, that we buy from TVA, 57% of that's already is carbon free. It may not be renewables, but it's nuclear, water, wind, and solar. So TVA has gone steps above trying to be carbon free. And of course, like I said, the Sierra clubs and things like that are not keen on nuclear power, but nuclear power is a good, clean resource up to a point. If you store the fuel. But here's TVA, you'll know, are shutting down a lot of coal plants and replacing those with combustion gas. And now what they have a big plan is really pushing out solar. They're in the real estate business. They're in buying land up to do large solar projects, and you'll see that announcements after announcements in the newspaper and that. But TVA has really embraced solar. It's not dependable, so we have to have other fuel sources in cold weather, storm weather, but it is an alternative on those sunny days, and that can help the fuel mix. And so I think that's another reason we want to be involved in the solar program. And this is just talking about TVA as an economic development partner. TVA has helped attract over 341,000 jobs to Tennessee, and have invested $45.4 billion in the valley from between 16 and 20. So, and in this last year, TVA helped to retain 67,000 jobs and investment of more than $8.6 billion. So TVA really touts a lot of their economic development. Locally, TVA works with the industrial board and those folks and they've done a lot of work in our industrial park as well. And that's just their information on the Community Care Fund. This is their management team, and just so y'all see them. Sue Collins is their communications person. She's new to TVA. Jeanette Mills is the new customer external relations. Jeanette has visited here a few months ago. She came from Baltimore and then did a lot of work in regulatory in the Baltimore area. Of course, Jeff Lash came in from, most recently from Canada, at a public power provider in Canada. Mike Skaggs, Ron, Sally, we met him when we went to Watts Bar. He was kind of working over the Watts Bar project, and now he's promoted up to all of operations. And then Sherry Quirk, she's their legal counsel, but she's actually over regulatory as well. So when we were dealing with Jennifer Brogdon and all the regulatory folks, we had a lot of meetings with Sherry as well. And she runs a pretty tight ship. So, but John Thomas is the CFO. He's not quite as entertaining as David is, but he struggles through the financials during the annual report. And then Timothy Rash, the nuclear, for some reason, TVA has problems keeping somebody in the nuclear position. There's so much a demand for that. And you talk about, I know there's a lot of heat from Jeff Lash on salaries and that, but they cannot keep somebody in that position because there's such a demand for that. But this team, we work with these folks on a regular basis on several meetings and such, and a strong team. So I did want you to introduce y'all to that as they did their annual report this recently as well. Update on where we are on this campus. We've started work on the transformer pad, which is behind the warehouse that you see over here, substation maintenance. Wet weather has slowed that in. They're supposed to start pouring the pad any day now. And once the pad's built, the overhang won't take that long. But this will be where we can start storing our transformers back on a pad with an oil separation and oil retention plan in place. We lost this pad when we started construction of this back warehouse, and the location that we've had has just not worked out very well. So this will be much needed for our substation maintenance folks. Inside the building, we're complete now. Outside the building, we're waiting on ACM panels, and we talked about metal and steel being short. The ACM panels come out of Canada. That steel is back ordered till the middle of December. So as soon as, she's kind of waiting on it. So we have the lower lobby area to be wrapped, our main sign to be wrapped, and then the directional signs to be done. And that will finish the outside work here with the exception of the transformer pad. So slowly making some progress there. NOC renovations. So this is where Bruce's team actually owns the NOC building. He hasn't been maintaining it very well, so we're trying to do some rework on that. Of course, you get an old building, you start. Y'all remember we had the asbestos, so the asbestos has been removed, and we've crossed that hurdle. I think it was cheaper than I thought. It was around $22,000 to take that out. Not near the expense that I was afraid we were going to run into. But we've run into some other issues with it. Of course, we've got 3 fuse panels. They're still the old fuses. We're hoping that we weren't going to have to touch any of those, but there's basically 3 different buildings over there on the street, and 3 different additions that have been put together. And some of the wiring crosses the additions. So one, we know we've had to replace one breaker panel, and we may have to replace a second breaker panel really to get it up to code. And if you see that mess of wire right there, it's like I wish they hadn't taken the panel off. I didn't want to see that, but once you see it, you got to fix it. And that this here,
What that is there's 3 ceilings that have been put in there, and none of the ceiling grid has been taken out. So they just keep adding on, and then we found a lot of this wire, exposed wire up here, and trying to trace it back to where it goes. So we've been cleaning all of that out. It's a huge fire, it's really a fire hazard, and not sure how any of that passed code. But I will just say this, on the knock, the demolition part of it, getting things set up, we found things that we thought we were afraid we were going to find, and that, but it needs to be done. It needs to be cleaned up. We're still working through the water issue. There's water penetrating the walls, and they initially thought it might be the coping. The roof is in sound shape. They thought it might be coming through the coping, but some of those back walls from the oldest building is a solid brick wall. So it's just two layers of brick. There's no block or nothing, no air space in between. So water gets in one brick, it's going to soak through right into the other brick. So they're still looking at things that we can do. I don't think coping is going to fix all the problems. We're going to redo some of the seal work around the windows. That'll solve some, but we may end up having to do some sort of a spray sealer on the outside brick. And the only thing about that is it's every 5 to 7 years you got to reseal it, so it'll be an ongoing expense that we might do. But we got to figure out the water issue. We did all the walls, redid all the walls in that building in 2009, and it's already a mess over there. If y'all been over to see it, so we know the water. It's an ongoing water issue. There's no reason to spend a lot of money on fixing the walls in the interior if we can't fix the water issue. So we haven't decided 100% what we're going to do, but we're looking at it. It looks like maybe a combination of things that we'll do. But I think it's not, we're making progress over there at the knock. There's a little bit closer picture. There's 3 ceiling grids that you see. And there was a lot of different stuff up in that ceiling. It was worse than our bucket in the boardroom. That's what that we found. Just a reminder, I think invitations have went out, that we typically have an anniversary dinner. But because of COVID, this year we're not going to have our anniversary dinner. But we still want to recognize those employees that are receiving service awards. So we're going to have a small luncheon recognizing just the employees that are receiving the awards and their managers. Will be at that luncheon. And of course, the board is invited to that luncheon as well. And we're just going to try to keep everything spread out and socially distance as much as we can. So we would, if your schedule permits, we'd love to have y'all at the luncheon to recognize our employees. There, of course, Raymond is on there. He has already left and retired this past year. So I don't know if he'll.
He's in the process of retiring.
Do I know?
He hasn't quite. He's in the process of
Yeah.
retiring.
Is he going to be here?
Yeah.
Okay. So Raymond will plan on being here. But we've got a good group that we do want to recognize. So I love to recognize our employees in front of their families. Especially, we kind of chartered that back while the linemen, a lot of the folks that have to go out and work the storms, and we got storm and bad weather. They can't be home to take care of the families. They're out getting lights back on, power restored, now internet restored. And so it's always great to recognize those folks in front of their families. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that this year. We'll try to make it up to them next year. I hope we'll be able to have our anniversary dinner next year.
You can live stream that event?
Do I know?
You can live stream that event so families can watch?
That's a good idea.
That's one.
It's a great idea.
I'm done.
Pretty said thank you as well.
Okay, you're welcome.
I'm really busy.
Yeah, I think we
can make that happen.
That's how we had the teamwork.
We're in the TV business.
It'll cost you though, won't it?
We got the video folks, the live streaming folks, we got the fiber. We'll get it, yeah, that's a good idea, I didn't really thought about that. Silicon Ranch, we did the special call meeting, we did, do a letter of intent with Silicon Ranch. We've been in multiple phone calls with them. They actually have been out talking to landowners prior to opening the RFP. And surprisingly enough, they have a 206 acre tract, 400 acre tract, and a 350 acre tract that they've been talking to landowners about. Between us, they were talking with IDB earlier, and the land that they were putting out there was way too expensive. I think it was, they were still, even for 100 acres or 200 acres, they were still wanting 40 and 50,000 an acre. And Silicon Ranch doesn't spend more than 10,000 acres on stuff. That's kind of what they have said. So we'll see what they find here in Clarksville. We've been pushing and recommending, asking them to look at the Exit 8 property. They have a phone call set up with the city for that property. And so the Exit 8 property for us is attractive in one, it'll get some visibility from the interstate, I think. It'll be kind of tied to the park there, and then we want to build a substation in that area, on the Exit 8 area. So if we could build a substation on that piece of property, tie that solar into that substation, it'll all just kind of work really well. So I don't know where those land parcels are at this point as they talk with the landowners and get a little bit further along. What they typically do will just kind of give options to purchase until we sign our purchase power agreement, and then they'll kind of work on that, make that purchase. We are working through that purchase power agreement. I've asked Lance to look at from the legal side of it, kind of looking through that. We're still working with 7 states on the technical aspect. There's a few things that we want to change on that from the technical side. So we're kind of working through that. Once we get it close, and once we have the land recognized where we're going to do it, then we got to talk with TVA. There is some issues that, depending on what substation we put it to, if we overproduce, what happens to that power? And do we get anything for that, or is it all a free give to TVA? So we'll be meeting with TVA once we know what land, to narrow down on it. And we're hoping to have a purchase power agreement at the January board meeting, is what we're hoping to do. So we'll see. That's kind of our target mark. But if you look up Silicon Ranch on their website, they're out of Nashville, a lot of local folks, a lot of former TVA employees as well. Strong reputation. And so I think they're starting to do several projects in the valley, smaller projects like ours in the valley. So I'm excited about this project, and I'm hoping things really come through. We did do the RFP. Right now we're looking at 10 megawatts, but there's an option to add another 5. We can go, we have, if we do solar, we can go up to 22 megawatts of solar power. We just weren't wanting to do it all with one contractor at one time, but if the land's there and the things work well, we may add an additional 5, is what we may come back and recommend to the board on that. At Halloween recently, and we had some folks that decided to dress up as we come in. And so, what was David's comment about partying? Anyway, of course, Jared, y'all know Jared. Who was he, David?
He's the main character on Peaky Blinders,
Okay.
Thomas Shelby.
Yeah.
What?
It's on Netflix. You can
It's a Netflix show.
use our internet to
It's a must-watch.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
What is it?
What's the name of it?
Peaky Blinders.
So, anyway, and then it was, the employees had a good time, dressing up for Halloween, as we did, trying to make the best of the COVID, situation.
That is David, right?
David
David's grand.
lost his cat, he said.
Dog.
Dog.
Dog, yeah.
That is clearly a dog stuck in the
It is a
back.
dog. I'm gonna have to leave that one there.
That's the guy handling our money.
That's a different personality. Depends on the day.
That's that's why, I told you, he's a lot more livelier than John Thomas is. A couple other things real quick on the electric division. We are still working with, we've submitted our one ownership study to TVA for the substation out on Tinytown Road. TVA is still reviewing that. They actually sent an email yesterday with additional questions, follow-up questions on that. So we anticipate it'll happen and they'll approve it, but we have to have their approval on that one ownership study before we can build a substation on that property. And then once they've done that, we'll have better of a timeline. They're going to have to build a 161 extension out through that. It's an old 69 kV right away, and so we'll have a better idea what the timeline is on that once we have approved that. We were on the broadband division with something that we're tracking on technical support. We actually are running at 92% customer satisfaction on our technical support calls, and they are. That's I think that's pretty good. If those are all the customers that come in with problems, some kind of issue, and or some sort of a technical question, and we're able to keep that customer support level high, says a lot. On customer service, all the billing that we do, electric and broadband, we're running at 99.99% accuracy on that billing. And the reason I point that out to now is we're going into high bill complaint season. And so it's always, I didn't use that much power, the bill must be wrong. And so Jim and his team will be spend a lot of time on the phone if the weather changes, and the problem with the October being as mild as it was, when it changes it really jumps that bill up, and people forget how warm it was. They just see that high bill. But we are going into that high bill season as well. Also want to talk about, Privet had mentioned virtual learning. The school system is a customer of ours. We provide internet service to the school system, and then yesterday they were all virtual, and they had some internal issues, several internal issues. But Christy, kind of give an update on what we've been doing to help the school system and some of the technical support we've offered.
It's been an interesting, evolving year for the school system, to say the least. We've been their internet service provider with a 10 gig connection to the Gracie Avenue complex, and then they have 1 gig point-to-point connections to all of their outside buildings, schools and the like. And we partner with CEMC to deliver that fiber over to the other schools outside of our service territory. On day 3 of the students returning back to school with a large portion of their students, they said about 50% doing virtual learning. Day 3 of the schools opening up, their IT department contacted me and said, we're not going to have enough bandwidth. And we track and notice, we manage their bandwidth and observe what they were using. And they were probably at about 70% at that point of their bandwidth usage for the 10 gig. So he asked on that day if we could move them up to 20 gig. we had everything in place on our side and they had everything in place on their side to move to 20 gigs. So by that afternoon, we had them doubled in their bandwidth. And it has worked perfectly fine for them up until this week when they sent everyone home. They have put in a request for 40 gig. They did not have what they needed on their side. And when I say that, I'm talking about equipment and optics to connect to the 40 gig connection. They were not prepared on their side to receive that 40 gig and are working on doing that this week. They had upgraded some equipment. There's a press release that went out that was on Clarksville Now this morning. They upgraded some equipment on Monday night, actually over the weekend, and on Monday when everyone tried to log in, they had some conflicts with their firewall and the way that equipment was configured. They went back in last night with support of their vendor to fix that issue. They will have their optics today for their 40 gig, and we will work with them tonight to turn up their 40 gig connection. These extra days of virtual learning with 100% of the students was a test for them to see what the system could handle. Do I think with their changes that they made last night and then with the 40 gig connection, will they be able to handle 100% of the students logging in virtually? Probably. Their next biggest issue is a lot of laptops that have issues and problems, and that's a device and that's spread out throughout the system, and that's just going to be difficult to manage. But they'll have the bandwidth in place, and then what they're doing internally on their own side will set them up for that. But it's my understanding, even just from our own household where Tony's been managing the grandkids, it has not been a fun experience for anyone. But we have been right there with them, partnering with them and monitoring their bandwidth usage and helping them as much as we can through this process.
So I just want to make sure everybody knows that our tech support folks have been working with the school system, trying to get them upgraded. We really helped them get to that 20 and kind of talked to them about that. They saw it before they saw it. And then on the 40 gig upgrade, we've been kind of talking to them, but they waited a little bit late to pull the trigger on it. And so y'all know, in the midst of all of this going on, they actually have a bid out for a new internet provider. And so we're constantly helping them upgrade, and they're looking to rebid their internet provider. So I don't know when that opens up.
That is actually, the bids are due on Monday. We have, of course, had a bid on that with them. We think we've got a solid bid. The interesting part is they requested quotes in the RFP from everything from 1 gig all the way up to 40 gig, and we'd already established price points, which they accepted. When they move to their 40 gig connection by Wednesday, we'll begin billing them for that. And they already have their federal, 60% of their bill with us is paid for by the FCC. And so they already have their federal approval for their 40 gig. So they know pre-bid what the price point is. However, they do have a new purchasing manager. And it's looking at a contract and being a hard line on what purchasing policies they have in place that's requiring them to bid this out. Do I think we will have anybody that can beat us on the price? Probably not, and certainly not on anything related to relationship and partnership and the like. So my feeling is we feel pretty good about that unless our competitors across the street come in and really lowball. But based on what I've seen them do in the past for pricing and service level, I don't think they can beat us.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. I just wanted, it's a hot topic with that. I just want y'all to know that, so we've been ranked high in our customer service levels, customer satisfaction level on tech support, and our folks have been really working with the school system along the way. So.
Let me just add too, I think related to that bid, I don't think if they sit down and look at the relationship and the ranking on that. I don't think that they'll find another provider in the market that the head of IT had my cell phone number, and by day 3 called and said, I need 20 gig, and by that afternoon, we had it turned up for him. He's not gonna receive that from anyone else. So,
How do they measure that though? You know, because state law is just pretty persnickety about bids and all that
yes.
jazz.
50% of the bid is price.
Okay,
And we're going in knowing that this is the price point that they've accepted from us already, because
Right.
they're paying for the services. And then the other 50% is split out with billing, because it's so much that you have to do with customized billing for the FCC, which we've been doing for them for 3 years, and had no issues and problems. And 25% on reputation and customer service.
so it's a proposal and not a bid,
It's a
right?
proposal,
Okay,
yes, I'm
even
sorry.
better. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
RFPs, they get to pick more than a straight bid.
Yes. Mhm.
There's a lot, well, yeah, a lot of other factors besides just the price on that. Okay, that's all that I have. Sally, have I forgotten anything? Okay. That's all that I have to present. Be happy to answer any questions from anybody.
Anybody, any further questions from anyone? Another good meeting, very informative, and appreciate again what each of you do every day for us. If nothing else to come before the group, meeting adjourned.